So welcome back, and in today's video we are going to look at something interesting. We are going to look at wrapper classes. So what is a wrapper class? So being that Java is an object-oriented language, most of the things that we write we use objects, but Java introduced something interesting whereby you can write like you can use primitive data types which are non-objects, but you using primitive data types you are limited to some features. You are limited to some features you would have access to while using your what your methods or your objects. So today we are going to look at that. In normal ways you can write integer, but an integer, this integer you are seeing and other data types can be changed to objects. So this can change to integer. This can change to integer. Comment on this. This can change to integer. This int changes to an integer. So while using this is a primitive data type, and this is an object. So it remains the same. Both are integers, but the way we deal with them becomes different. I can use this integer to mean an object. I can use this to mean a primitive data type. This works to all primitive data types that we have. It can be a double, changing to an object, which is a double. It can be a short, changing to short. That's the same thing why we use strings. Strings are non-primitive data types. That's why we are writing strings, instead of using a short format like string, we use string, because a string is an object. We deal with it as an object, not as a primitive data type. So that I just brought it in and remove it. And other data types, you can name it long, short, everything that you want. You can change this to objects. Using objects in Java helps. We have what we call the heap memory. While using objects, it helps you to save some spaces besides using the primitives data types. Now, what are some of the importances of using objects instead of using these primitive data types? Allows the objects themselves, these ones, after changing this to this, it allows primitives to be used in a collection. Let me say we haven't looked at array lists, but in the coming videos, we are going to see what are array lists. So you can store your objects into array lists, which you can do to your primitive data types. So you have to change these primitive data types to your objects. They remain the same, but simply the way the advantages increase. The second advantage is that you are limited to certain methods. We have methods like toString, parseInt, those methods. So while dealing with just plain primitive data types, you are just limited to those advantages. So with changing this to this, you can have access to those ones. You can change your integer to float, something like that, using methods. Yeah, there is an interesting added advantage, which we are going to see in the next minutes, called these objects, these ones. It supports what we call autoboxing and unboxing, which we are going to see it. You can change primitive data types to objects, and you can change these objects back to primitive data types. So let us see that immediately. Remove this. So let me say I'm having a primitive data type. I'm going to do what we call autoboxing. I want to change this primitive data type back to an object. So let me say I'm having a number is equal to 10. So when I come down here, I will say integer, this integer, hopefully that's the spelling, integer. integer integer is equal to this. Now becomes an object, and we are changing this. So we can do something like this. This is a primitive data type, and now this is an object itself. When you go inside here, you see that this here is inside an object. It is extending a number, but it is a class itself. Hopefully I'm clear. Let us go back. So I have changed this num back to an object. So when I try to say system.out object java demo.java, run and compile, you will see that I'm getting 10. Yeah, here I have consoled this object here, and I'm able to access this. Now here, after changing this to an object, I can now have access to object methods. So I can say dot to, let me say dot to string, no, let me change it to, let me say dot to float value. Yeah, and this can take 10.6, something like this. I'm having issues. Float value is not yeah. Here I have to change this to what? To I have to change this to, I have to cast this instead. Yeah, they are saying the method float value in the type integer is not applicable for the arguments integer. So this is an integer. So here I was just meaning that you have access to any methods. You can change this to pass int, to string. You are seeing all of these are some of, I can even hash this code here. Yeah, let me hash it. I'm going to hash this code. So when I try to run and compile, you can see that this is working as expected. So can I pass this value inside here? Can I pass a value like 30? Yeah. So the other thing is, the moment you see a line in the IDE you are using, just know that they used or they improved, or they have another method or another way that you can use this. So when I compile this and run, you see that I'm getting 30, changing this 10 to 30 using the hash code. So those are some of the advantages that we get after changing this to back to an object. So this is called Autoboxing. Autoboxing. Changing a primitive data type to an object. So I can remove this. So let us see what we call unboxing. So what if I have, can first comment out this. So what if I have an integer? Oh, let me use a double in this case instead of using an integer. I can use another example. So I'm having a double called num2. This is taking like 10.5. So I want to change this object here, and object back to a primitive data type. So I will say double small caps is equal to num2, which is equal to the object that I'm changing. So when I say system.out num2 and compile, yeah, you see that I'm able to access num2 but back to its primitive data type. So this is called unboxing. Simply, unboxing is changing your object back to the primitive data type. The autoboxing is changing your primitive data type back to an object. So that's one of the advantages that you get, and that's how you deal with class wrapping. So all of this is called class wrapping. Yeah, class wrapping. Thank you very much.